We need a Congress that actually steps up to the plate and takes some responsibility, or else we are going to have an executive which in the future, whichever party it is, again, gets us into wars that we never voted on or consulted Congress about, and unilaterally does things like the UAW bailout.
Looking ahead, 2012 with the GOP, you're going to need someone in the White House to further legislation to try to undo what the Obama administration has done over the past few years. What can the Republicans, what can the GOP, conservatives, what can we all do to stop this gangster government? Who do we have to elect? What do we have to do legislatively?
Right. Well, in the last chapter of Gangster Government, I discussed this because there's the obvious answer, which is you beat Obama at the ballot box. But how do you prevent this from ever happening again? I mean, we saw Obama run in 2008 promising he was a breath of fresh air. He was going to fix a broken system in Washington. And instead, he's come in, he has exploited all of its brokenness at every possible point in order to help his friends and punish his enemies. And how do you prevent another Chicago-style politician from coming into the White House and abusing power the same way? Well, I think that you have to put in some reforms that are going to put the same checks on Republican presidents, because I don't want to see future Republican presidents govern this way either. Among the suggestions that I make, one is to end recess appointments. They made sense at the time the Constitution was written, but we have a Congress that's here year-round now, so who are we fooling? This is just a political trick. Obama's found new ways of abusing that, by the way. He doesn't just appoint someone to avoid controversy or get around the Senate. He appoints people who haven't even had hearings so that they don't have to the Democratic senators don't even have to get embarrassed asking questions of people like Donald Berwick and Elizabeth Warren. Then, so that's one small idea for putting a check on the executive. Congress needs to really step up to the plate, though. During the last 2 years, the first two of the Obama administration, he had a completely free pass. There was no congressional oversight. He was taking majority ownership of an automaker without so much as a vote of Congress. He was, running a stimulus package that was full of waste and fraud. No oversight at all. The oversight committees were holding hearings on laws to make sure there were the same number of male and female restrooms in federal buildings. Literally, that's the kind of oversight they provided. I suggest that in the future, we should have the party that is opposite the president running congressional oversight all the time, no matter who controls Congress. And I think that that's a reform that, that's something they do in Israel. It's something that they do in the UK. It's something that we could do here, and we could do it just by passing congressional rules and kind of having some collegiality. Hell, let's have Congress step back up to the plate. Liberal Democratic senators recognize many of the problems that Obama's appointees are not being confirmed. It's Chris Dodd is saying stuff like that. You know that there's a real problem. It's not just conservatives griping. So I make a few other suggestions as well, but the obvious one is that members of Congress have to read what they're voting on. They have to understand, and not just read, but actually understand what they're voting on. We can't have any more of this, passing a financial reform bill that the author of which says, well, we're not exactly sure how this is going to work, but we'll find out later. We can't have them passing Obamacare, which even now, to this day, you have senators and congressmen who voted for it, giving statements about it that clearly show they don't understand what's in the bill. Senator Bill Nelson from Florida actually, in an interview, talked about how, well, Obamacare has a severance clause. It was a big deal during the court cases against it. Well, actually, no, it doesn't, and that's kind of a big deal, and you voted for it, and you don't even know that? We need a Congress that actually steps up to the plate and takes some responsibility, or else we are going to have an executive which in the future, whichever party it is, again, gets us into wars that we never voted on or consulted Congress about, and unilaterally does things like the UAW bailout.